Let's get this thing started. Well, you already know where I'm going.
Chase?
Uh,
So is Chase your number one? Or you said CeeDee's your number one, right?
receiver?
Yeah.
So my number one receiver is fluctuating right now. I like CeeDee Lamb a little bit more than Chase this year. And I've come up a lot on CeeDee. Like I've been talking the talk with CeeDee Lamb. I've been saying, I think he can bounce back. And I think Dak is coming. But I wasn't ranking him appropriately. I was having him behind Justin Jefferson still and Jamar Chase. And I came to the realization that, like, I don't think I like what Chase brings on a week-to-week basis, even though I know he's elite. I think I just like what CeeDee Lamb brings on a volume basis on a week-to-week basis. Like, Chase will have those games of like 50 points, 45 points, whatever. But I feel like when you look at what CeeDee Lamb did 2 years ago, it was damn near the same kind of output fantasy-wise over the course of a year than what Chase had.
Yeah.
And, Jefferson, his quarterback situation it's not the same as Joe Burrow or Dak Prescott. And I really think George Pickens being on Dallas is going to open things up for CeeDee and allow him to move around the offense. So I would say that Chase and Lamb to me are a clear S tier. I think Jefferson might be like a S minus or an A plus. And then I think that I would rather have at the top of the draft, I would rather have CeeDee Lamb, who seems to be a little bit more like outside of last year's injury. He hasn't really been injury prone. Joe Burrow's been injury prone at times. Jamar Chase has been injury prone at times. And I know they had clean years last year. And I don't know. Everything in me says that, like, I just trust CeeDee Lamb a little bit more than I trust Chase. And it's not by much. I'm taking CeeDee Lamb over Jamar Chase.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, for me, it's Chase, but also I would say it's probably unlikely that I don't want to say unlikely, but it's just historically, we don't see these guys repeat often.
Yeah.
I know that Antonio Brown did it, and you could have the perfect situation where he is Antonio Brown esque, just putting up wide receiver one seasons.
Especially Jamar Chase got the Triple Crown last year too, right?
Yeah.
Or did he just miss it?
No, I believe he got the Triple Crown.
I think he got the Triple Crown last year. So it's like in that, even after Triple Crown seasons, I think that most receivers don't fare well after Triple Crown season, if I remember correctly. Or fare as well, I should say. Not fare well.
But I do think
check this on that. Fact check this chat. Fact check this on that. Make sure we're saying the right shit. Triple Crown and how do they do after Triple Crown year, if anybody has that.
But I've always been a big it's like Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb for me. And then Jefferson safely at 3.
Yeah, I've come up on CeeDee. I think I'm gonna rank him number 1. It feels like I'm just trying to be different, but like I think they're 1A, 1B to me.
Yeah. I mean, they basically had, like I said, they had, because I think that smart people, no offense, smart people out there see CeeDee Lamb for what he is, a guy who finished the wide receiver 1 just 2 years ago. And then you have the people who are just like haters of Dallas because he wears that star on his helmet. Like if he was playing for the fucking Eagles or something like that, I feel like he'd be more universally liked, or maybe not even the Eagles, just somebody else. But since he plays for Dallas, it's just always like this weird hate with Dallas players, which I don't like Dallas. I fucking hate Dallas, but like I can remove the hate for fantasy football. Like CeeDee Lamb had averaged these same fantasy points per game as Jamar Chase did last year. They both averaged 23.7.
Right.
So like there's no reason to think that he can't be the wide receiver 1 once again in fantasy football.
And the thing is, Jamar Chase's numbers were like a much more exciting wide receiver 1 than CeeDee Lamb. Like just the way that he did it.
Well, so he had 3 weeks, which I mean, I could go back and I didn't look at CeeDee, but Jamar Chase had 3 weeks. He had 45, 41, and 55 points at 3 different weeks last year.
But the difference is with Jamar Chase, that requires like 4 touchdowns or 200 yards. With CeeDee Lamb, that's like 12 catches for 150 yards. And a touchdown.
I think Chase will be a safer bet. And he's always been a really good touchdown kind of guy. Like he'll have more touchdowns than CeeDee just because that he's better in the red zone. And also, I just think Joe Burrow's better than Dak, although I think Dak's fine. No slate at Dak.
what about if T stays healthy all year too? Because we haven't really seen like T stay healthy all year. And when T plays, there's evidence out there when T plays, Jamar Chase isn't as consistent as we all think he is.
I'm not even worried. Just because they're two different wide receivers. I think it's kind of like George Pickens, where I think George Pickens is a great Robin to the Batman of CeeDee Lamb, and that's what this is. And they're elite wide receiver ones who see incredible target shares because they're just the best wide receivers in the league.
They're tough. I would say they're tough to get. It's tough to take both of them in like for a best ball stack. It's tough to take like both CD and Pickens. I've found because it's like I feel like if one does good, the other one's probably not going to do as good, just matchup wise. But like I've been getting a lot of Dak and Lamb too, like trying to stack that up. I think that's going to be super. With the
Dallas
way Dak goes late, it's a super valuable stack.
And you can even get you can throw. Because he goes really late too, like Jake Ferguson in there is.
Yep.
He can even be like your tight end 2 or tight end 1, just double tap the tight end or go 3 tight ends, however you want to build. But like Dallas, it's just for Dallas. Like we know, maybe they do have new coaching, so we'll see what happens this year with it all. But like they just have too many good players on the offense side of the ball to not be in a questionable running game. We're not sure how that running game is going to look. So this could just be a very good passing game that has to throw the ball a lot because they're inefficient on the ground.
Speaking of passing game, I want to throw this your way. I've kind of been talking about it, but I haven't talked enough about it. I'm really, really intrigued by Drake London, obviously. And obviously, like Bijan Robinson is my number one player.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't talked enough about how much I'm excited about this Falcons offense. I really think, like, I just mentioned, I think on the last mock we were doing, but like, I think the Indy offense is super undervalued with like Michael Pittman, Josh Downs even going later, Tyler Warren being like the tight end 10 off the board, Anthony Richardson, if he starts, is like a top 5 to 10-ish quarterback. He goes outside the top 25. He hasn't gone yet in a draft that we've done, these 10 team drafts.
Yeah.
So the Indy offense already is like that. But this Falcon offense, right? The reason I'm so excited about Drake London potentially having like wide receiver 1 ceiling, Bijan Robinson having appeal as the RB1, Darnell Mooney's probably going to be a flex play again. Kyle Pitts to me has like top 10-ish upside. It's because of Michael Penix. Like I kind of think that like we're not giving Michael Penix enough credit, him and Zach Robinson, who's leading this whole thing, enough credit to what this offense really could be. Michael Penix was the number 8 quarterback off the board. Number 8 has one of the stronger arms you're going to see in the league. And we saw Bo Nix play at a high level last year. All the quarterbacks were good last year. And for some reason, we still have Michael Penix outside of the top 20, knowing what kind of fucking talent he is. Like, I think we're not giving Michael Penix to me might be like significantly undervalued because there was also a point last year we knew Kirk's limitations and we were like, oh, Kirk should be a top 12 to 15 quarterback, right? Like that was what we were expecting out of this Falcon offense last year. And it didn't happen, but we saw a game where like, shit, if Kirk is on that Monday Night Football game where he had, what do you throw, 5-6 touchdowns that game, throw 500 yards, like that was a crazy ass game for Kirk Cousins. Imagine if he was Michael Penix.
Yeah.
To me, I think we are being like, I think he's one of those quarterbacks we're going to look at. We talked about it on the show. Jaden Daniels or like Bo Nix of last year. That might be the quarterback that we look back on and we're like, why the hell did we not take that guy in the top 20 given the situation?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I can't get quite there with the excitement. I wouldn't even say concerns, but there just could also be a world where I know a lot of people put a lot of, and it's fantasy football, and you got to ride with small sample sizes because that's how it is a lot of time. But a lot of people put stock in the 3 games last year, I believe he played in.
Yeah, last 3 games. He started 3 starts.
Yeah, he started in. So I'm not going to sit here and say that you shouldn't because obviously you got to put something in it, and he played, and I mean, especially that last game was really, really good. So we'll see what happens. But he could be this quarterback class just could be one of the greatest quarterbacks classes we've ever seen. Like, honestly, it could be like that. Those classes come around, they happen.
Yeah,
And we could
it's
be
also year
witnessing
one too. Like it's year one. Well, now will be year two, but like they were strong rookies already.
Yeah,
but like,
and they could, yeah, like take a step
it
back.
kind of reminds me of like, I don't know if you remember this or not, but like Lamar Jackson, his rookie year, we were kind of like, or was it his rookie year? Like he was going super late in drafts and didn't start until a few games. It was rookie year, right?
Well, I think, yeah. Well, was it? I can't remember. Was it his rookie? Was it his sophomore year that he started playing?
I can't remember. No, I think it was his rookie year, and he sat for like the first 5 or 6 games or something.
And then played later in the year.
And then he played later in the year. But it was one of those things that was like, okay, if he gets a starting gig fantasy wise, shit's gonna be crazy. Oops. Oh shit, you want auto?
Yeah, that's my bad.
I got you going on.
Just give me I was gonna take.
Go ahead, just take who you want. But it reminds me a lot of like we get to see a little bit of tape on him, kind of like. I don't want to sound crazy, and I probably will sound crazy saying this, but it's like it reminds me a lot of like how Mahomes kind of took the league on, set the league on fire his year, and he had to sit behind Alex Smith. We were like, oh shit, he's got a live ass arm, and then like outperformed everybody's expectations. Like I said, I don't want to sound crazy, but like I can see like Michael Penix having like 5,000 yard upside. Like Michael Penix was the league leader, huh?
All right, Max.
No, I didn't say 6,000 breaking records, right? But Michael Penix was like the league leader in passing yards when he played in college. I want to say both years, his sophomore and junior year, I want to say he led the league in passing yards in both of those years. And like he's the kind of quarterback that we know he has the live arm. So, I mean, maybe they need another receiver. Maybe Mooney's not it. Maybe Ray McLeod's not it. But like, I don't know. I have like outlandish expectations from this team. Like, I don't know why, bro. Like, that's what the word is they're using. It's just I get really excited talking about this offense.
I understand. I mean, once again, I can't get that. But I love Bijan. Like, I love Drake May. I think Drake May's a very talented wide receiver. Or Drake London.
Oh, Drake London, yeah.
Drake London.
That's how excited you are about Drake May.
I love Drake May's my your Michael Penix, right? But once again, like I just kind of treat Michael Penix the same way I treat JJ McCarthy. We don't know, like, because it was JJ McCarthy, we have no idea. We didn't even see him play. Where Michael Penix, it was a 3 game, and then like we don't know. Like it could. I've based my opinion on 3 games before, and it's worked out, but I've also seen it burn me. So it's just one of those things where I have no idea what's good. But like you said, there's a lot of upside with those kind of players.
I just think that like to say 3 game sample size or like rookie's got to develop. We saw him on the field essentially. As a rookie.
Yeah. Oh, I would say, but he didn't play,
He played 3 games, and it's like it wasn't like they just fed him to the wolves and he played like shit. It was like they ramped him up, and in the last game, obviously, like I think it was OT even in that game, or one of the 2 games that he played, there was overtime. But like in the games that he played at an elite level. So I don't know. I get to this point with him where I'm like, I think the community is going to look back and be like, "Oh shit, what were we thinking?" When it comes
think that's going to be Drake May.
You didn't see me Drake May?
Yeah, I think Drake May. See, the difference that I have with Penix and May is just that you got to hope for big touchdown upside with Penix because he's not a mobile quarterback. He's not somebody who's going to run the football. Where Drake May is that, and Drake May has the live arm, and Drake May he doesn't have Drake London, and he doesn't have Bijan Robinson, but he's got that upside.
I think even with McDaniels, just hoping that you got to hope that offense scores enough touchdowns. Whereas I think the Falcons offense,
it should be, but we've also seen offenses that have disappointed that you think should be really good, and the offenses that people look at and say, "God, this offense could be terrible," end up being pretty decent. So for me personally, like and the biggest thing that I have with Drake May that I really like, and I was somebody who was very skeptical on this. I'm just going to take Juwan Jennings. I was very skeptical on this person, but the fact that Stephon Diggs is healthy, he was fully cleared.
Yes.
Like that, I think is a big like is very important for Drake May, because now there's a guy who, and maybe Stephon Diggs isn't the player that he once was coming off the ACL, but if he can be somewhat of the player that he is, then he's enough of a threat. And if like Kyle Williams, I'm not saying Kyle Williams is going to be wide receiver one, but if he can be a
Kyle
quality,
Williams
like,
got to be a top 3 receiver on that team first.
well, apparently the word is, and I know that this is the word, but Kayshon Boutte kind of looks like the or not Kayshon Boutte, Kendrick Bourne looks like the odd man out right now that might get cut.
Yes.
But
they got Boutte, Demario Douglas, and Diggs all ahead of him.
Diggs. Right, and if Kyle Williams is a big play kind of guy who's very good at, like, if he can be, decent. But then you also have Travion Henderson's a very good receiving back. And they drafted Will Campbell. Like, they've made additions here, and I think that it could be a Patriots offense that could surprise people. And I like with Drake May though, is just the rushing upside, and I just feel like he's that kind of guy that we look back and say, why was he taken so low? Kind of like Jane Daniels last year. Why were we drafting him?
We'll see when it comes to Drake May. Aiden, what's good, bro? Appreciate you becoming a member again. Should I be taking Tyreek and Marv with confidence?
No.
1,000%, bro.
Absolutely not. I would say those are, number one, I'm not with you on this. I think Marv is one of the most overrated players in fantasy football right now.
Reek or Marv? I didn't hear.
Marv. You're
overrated how?
Bro, you were saying Marv was overrated last year going in the second round. You just took him again the second round. And what did he do last year? You were correct last year.
I know I was correct last year. We playing fantasy 2025. He was
so,
we playing fantasy 2024.
This is the problem that I have with him. We're taking, and I like Kyler Murray, but we're taking two right now in this draft. Kyler Murray is the player that just had his 2 pass catchers go before anyone else. That's before T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So so that either means that those guys are severely overrated or Kyler Murray severely underrated, because right now we are taking those 2 guys as the top duo in the NFL right now. Ain't no fucking way that's going to happen. It's either going to be McBride is going to be a big bust, or Marv for where he's going is a big bust, or Kyler is a massive value for where he's currently going, because that does not make any goddamn sense. Like, that makes no sense.
But it does make sense, though. I think Kyler is a value, but I also think with Marv, you're playing the upside. You have to be playing the upside, because this kind of reminds me of, like,
it's not playing. You're praying to God.
But I don't see it like that. The upside's there. He had a bad season according to everybody's,
it wasn't bad.
expectations last year, right? But he was a top 20. He was a top 22 receiver last year. So you got to think. What was he ranked? Tell me what he was ranked. I thought he was 22 last year. Maybe.
Well, I look at it in terms of points per game. He averaged 11 fantasy points per game, which is dreadful. That's
fair. But he's also a rookie in this situation. So if we're thinking Kyler is going to be better, then he's a value. Obviously, he's got to be up there. Why can't Marv take a leap? Like, he's not going to be the same player that he was last year. The offense, they're going to make changes. You don't draft the guy and not make changes.
What is the leap? What do you think? Because this is the biggest problem I have. What is the upside? Like, what is the fantasy points per game upside that you can see with Marv? What is the max?
If Marv had 1,410 touchdowns,
I would be completely shocked. Are you kidding me?
No, I wouldn't be shocked. That's
1,400?
1,410 touchdowns.
1,410 with Kyler?
Yes, give me 1,410.
And you're taking Trey McBride? Are you kidding me? No. Trey
McBride can fall, and he could be a PPR guy. We talked about it. Touchdowns for yardage.
1,400. Okay.
1,400
this
yards.
Is what I think realistically – the best thing that we have is DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins averaged 18 fantasy points per game with Kyler Murray before.
Okay.
But that's not with a number 2. Like, there is no number 2. Maybe you could say Christian Kirk, and I think he averaged around like 13 fantasy points per game, 12 fantasy points per game. So you're saying the max, and I would disagree with that. The max for Marv is 18 fantasy points per game. And I would say honestly,
you're asking me what I think it's going to be. I don't think that's the max for Marv. I think Marv could crush. I think Marv could be a 1,600, 1,700 yard receiver. And I think he could be like 10, 12 touchdowns.
I would say in the right situation. I don't think my problem is that I don't think this is the right situation. Okay. My biggest problem with Marv is I agree. if he was in a different offense that had a different quarterback and no, because I think Trey McBride is a big time threat to just targets where he out-targeted Marv last year by over 30 and played in one less game. Now you can say Marv was a rookie, 100%. You can say that. But Trey McBride's also a young player. And Trey McBride is arguably one of the best. Next year, he could be viewed as the best tight end in the league, and I wouldn't be shocked by that. So my biggest problem is just that I think Marv currently is being drafted as best case scenario once again, which he was last year. I don't see Marv getting to 18 fantasy points per game. I think best case scenario is he takes like a JSN type of leap and he gets to 15 fantasy points per game, but that's where you're drafting him, because if he's not and he's closer to 13 fantasy points per game, this is going to be such a bad pick. And the other person in it is Tyreek. I agree that Tyreek Hill has huge upside where he could be an absolute value, but there could also be a real chance, and you can't disagree with this, like the proof could be in the pudding last year, where even in games with Tua, he was averaging 14 fantasy points per game. That's not good for where he's currently going, but it could be where he could get back to where he was before. But once again, this is in confidence, with confidence. I would say with hope. I wouldn't say confidence, because the proof could already be in the pudding with Tyreek Hill that these were the early signs, and the bottom could fall out, because it happens sometimes.
It's I think as a community, people always try to see the exit before it happens, right? And I think that's a good thing to do in Dynasty, but I think in redraft, it's not always a smarter strategy, because that's where a lot of times you find the most value. And it's also, I think people see the bad, right? Like if Marvin Harrison had outperformed expectations, we'd be like, oh shit, he's ready to take a year two leap. But because he didn't have the season that everybody wanted at the ADP that it was, now we're thinking, oh man, he's going to be slower. I don't know if he's going to have the same season. And I hear you. Like you're like, okay, I don't think he should be going as a top 15 receiver, because you don't see wide receiver 5 upside. You don't see top 5 receiver upside, which is what you kind of want in that range, right? But with Marv, the reason why I see that, I'm like, look, you look at what Brian Thomas was able to do. You look at what Malik Neighbors was able to do. Talent-wise, Marv is not a different player than that. And quarterback-wise, he's probably in a better situation than both those guys with Kyler Murray. I think the offense needs to – I think the offense does need to change a little bit in order to get the ceiling that we're looking for. But Marv, to me, has the ceiling of like an 1,800-yard receiver. There's nothing saying he can't be a 1,700-yard, 1,800-yard receiver.
Or
nothing saying that.
But what happens if maybe he's just not the generational prospect that we thought he was? He's more of a good prospect than the generational one that can't overcome the fact that there are limitations with Kyler Murray. I don't think Kyler Murray has ever thrown for 4,000 passing yards.
He hasn't. He's thrown for like 39. I actually used this stat with Marv his first year. I was like, he's never thrown for 4,000 yards. He's thrown for like 3,964.
But like I said, Kyler could have a career year. I don't think anybody would be shocked by that. But that's also like, once again, I think that's just best case. I would feel more comfortable in my drafts personally. Marv goes around the 4th round. I feel more comfortable with Marv going there.
Marv goes 4th round in your drafts?
Yeah, that's where I think he should be going, rather than you're taking him at his ultimate ceiling right now, in my opinion.
I don't think you're taking him at ultimate ceiling. I think you're taking him in the back end here at this 2-3 spot, especially because I went with Bijan, right? So I think the upside there, out of any player that's remaining with Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, T. Higgins, Rashee Rice, he's the one player that can enter top 5 territory. I think that's the easiest to spot, right? I'm not saying that nobody else can. I think that's the easiest player to spot. Marv is top 5 upside, because I don't think anybody else after that legit has like top 5-ish upside. That's just super easy to see, I'll say.
There's like 3 people that are easy to see. Chase Brown?
At receiver.
At receiver. I'm sorry. I agree with I would say Rashee Rice. But
I don't think,
that's also
if he gets suspended, there's no chance.
Yeah. Well, if I would say if he gets suspended 3 games, which we don't know, like he could still,
Rashee Rice,
even with those 3 games, like still could get there.
Yeah. We'll have to talk about him another time. I know you view Rashee Rice a certain way, but I think when it comes to Harrison, I'm looking at the ceiling. And then when it comes to Tyreek Hill, you mentioned, what if we kind of saw the writing on the wall last year? It's like, What if it was just a down year? What if Tua being hurt affected this offense? What if Tyreek's injury to himself was really something that affected him? Like he had a lot of off the field shit going on too.
Agreed.
Tyreek Hill did. So I'm like,
no, 100%.
We're forgetting that he's a 1,700-yard guy in this offense. We're forgetting that he's been working on his speed all off season. Like Tyreek I think he's a very safe 1,400-yard type play in fantasy. I don't see how it's
maybe like, but once again, the question is, should you be drafting him with confidence? And you could say, yeah, but I would say there's reasons to have some worry with them. Like I'm not saying, and that's to me personally, I think that this is the part of the draft where decisions get really tough. Like I think once you personally, I would still go with Brock Bowers in that range because I think he's very safe. But I think that once like Brock, Ladd McConkey, and like Drake London are off the board, AJ Brown, I think that's when the draft starts to get really tough because I think there's a lot of guys that you can start to be really to poke some pretty big holes into the prospect profile, like next year's profile this upcoming year, and say, I don't know, like there's some risk here and some big concerns. And I think that once again, I think Tyreek Hill could potentially finish as a top 5 guy again. Maybe that guy comes back, but I also do think that there's a real chance that it could happen. This could be the year where it's.
I was thinking anytime you get Tyreek, last year. Anytime you get Tyreek outside of the top 10 receivers, I think that's a smash, bro. I think
remember what we said last year with another player.
Who?
Travis Kelce. My God, anytime that he's going in the 4th or 5th round or 3rd round, wherever he was going last year, he's not even going as the tight end 1. Yeah. Look what happened. Now he's going 7th round, and I still think that might be too early because he could take another big step back because he's 35 years old. Like, so that's a lot of variance with him. That's the problem with older players is that I agree. It could just be a down year, or it could just be, sadly, we said it with DeAndre Hopkins, like, sadly, like these guys, we know them as great fantasy players and we love them, but sadly they get to a point where
I think the problem with, and we don't have to harp too much longer on this situation. I think the problem that I can see, what I can see in the difference in me and your philosophy is that I look at players who have done it before and maybe are on a bad season, especially if they're older, as like a value. And I'm like, okay, they've been elite. They're probably still elite. As long as they're not 35, I think they still have time left in their prime. I think you're like, oh shit, I don't want to get stuck taking a guy early that's older in a year where he can have a bad year when I know this guy is in his prime right now and had a good season last year. And then when it comes to younger players, I also feel like you're like, maybe if they didn't have a good year last year, what's really the upside with this young player versus like a Ladd McConkey or somebody else, Chase Brown, you're like, they had a good year last year, they could be better. Whereas I'm like, ooh, I see the value with a Harrison or with a Breece Hall. I see the value. I think they can bounce back. There's a very clear difference in our philosophy, and I can tell.